Hello YouTube, this is Steve from Tower Genius, and I want to talk briefly to something actually pretty disturbing that came across my desk recently, and just want to talk about it. So I want to talk about a church who got fleeced, and is getting fleeced by a major wireless carrier. You all know their name, but I'm not going to mention it here because I don't want to embarrass them, or worse. So, but basically, churches, typically, I guess, and I'm going to speak about things that relate to taxes, and I am not a tax expert. I am not a tax advisor. I'm a telecom consultant, and I give you my best opinion and thoughts on things. So don't take any of this as advice, tax advice, etc. So we get a call from a church. And this church had a cell site in their steeple, right, in a quaint village and residential area, and they had a steeple and a carrier placed a cell site in that steeple because the zoning in the area would not allow a tower to go up if there was a structure that could work for cell site installation, right? So long story short, this carrier installs their equipment in the church steeple, and churches typically, they don't pay, they're tax exempt organizations, so they really didn't pay close attention to the lease. As it turns out, the lease agreement somehow omitted, I guess the site acquisition rep omitted the tax language. There was no tax language, so that has to do with property taxes. So if the property is taxed by the taxing authority, the municipality or the county or whatever, and a portion of the tax that is assessed to the carrier is typically paid by the carrier. There's different language for that, but general rule of thumb is when a cell tower or cell site gets installed and your property taxes go up, the carrier or the tower company will pay the difference in the tax that's attributed to the cell tower. Okay, so this church has so the original lease, I think it was done in like late 90s. No tax language existed, so that doesn't just get omitted accidentally, right? That's purposely withheld. Okay, all these older cell site leases all had tax language. So, site acquisition company comes in working for a carrier, and they're trying to make a premium. They're trying to make some sort of commission. Well, hey, you know what? There's incentive. If you can get the lease signed without tax language, and there's a bonus in there. There's incentive. It's a sales organization. So after the lease gets signed, the church realizes that, oh boy, we don't have tax language in here. A few years later they realized, and when they start, I guess what happened was at some point the municipality started realizing, hey, there's this tenant here that they don't live in our town, but they have this thing here and it's valuable. So they assessed a tax against the church, against that telecom installation. So that carrier actually did the right thing back then, and they sat down with the church and said, look, you don't have this language in your lease agreement, but we're going to do the right thing here. And they actually did, and they had like a gentlemanly handshake type of agreement, and the carrier, the church submitted the tax bill to the carrier, and the carrier paid that tax. I mean, it's pretty amazing that they did that. Well, lo and behold, 2022, a certain merger happened between two carriers. I'm not going to mention the name of the carrier that has fleeced this church, but let's just say I won't mention their name. So the church went to the company that acquired the other company and said, hey, we kind of have this gentlemanly agreement with your predecessor here, and we have this tax bill, and they said, absolutely not. We're not paying your tax bill. And these folks are locked into this lease for about another 10 years, roughly. And it's a significant amount. It's about $8,000 a year. And the church has a huge amount to cover. And, churches don't really have money for that, in their budgets. So, if you're a church, and, don't assume that just because you're like a tax-exempt organization, that some, granola-eating, progressive type of, taxing authority is not going to come in and assess tax against you. So if you don't have tax language in that lease agreement, you could be in a world of hurt when it comes, trying to balance your budget there. So if you are a church, if you need guidance, there's actually, a wonderful attorney. Now, I'm not, this person doesn't know I'm going to plug their law practice, but there's a law firm. I think it's called Church Tax and Ministry Law or something like that. But Robert Brown, he's out of Phoenix, Arizona, and if you Google like church tax law practice, Robert Brown Phoenix, you'll find his website. So if you're a church, I have no idea what Bob charges for consultations, but he is the best in the United States when it comes to ministry law, tax law, and cell sites. I know this because I've worked with Bob and helped with his clients, probably over a dozen different times over the past decade. And so if you're a church and you have questions, give us a call at Tower Genius. Obviously, 888-313-9750. Visit us at towergenius.com. But look up that law practice. I mean, I'm sure pastor to pastor or whatever, they can guide you and to give you that type of advice. Be very careful with this tax language, and the carriers are not your friend. They are, it's a cutthroat business, and they don't care that you're a church. They will take you to cleaners, and they will fleece you every time they have an opportunity. Don't doubt me about that.